like as many times.
Welcome to this week's episode of Thumb Therapy, where we're going to be reviewing the potentially fantastic Void Bastards.
Yeah, so come with us on this magical adventure through the Nebula.
Sargasso.
Yes, that's what I said. And let's see if this game deserves your attention or should be thrown into the bloody void. But before we do that, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and do all those glorious things, because the more you get to do that, the more that we get to do this. And, I kind of like it. I don't know about Nathan, but, I think he likes it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played this on Nathan's PC, which is somehow more quiet than my overworked CPU and also more dying. And yet this game ran strikingly well. It's a bit of a clunky shooter, but that only adds to the gameplay elements of survivability. Not every character needs to be Space Rambo. Why isn't that a movie? You can sprint, and by God, that is honestly your best friend. Shoot, throw bombs, and craft. Because why the original? Considering its incredibly ambitious animation style, kicking back to 13 on the PS2, which that game was an absolute disaster, this game takes that art style and perfects it. Is it a perfect game? By the gods, no. But what it is a fun shooter you can play in small doses if you're strapped for time and just want to shut your brain off and have fun. It's not challenging your cognitive abilities all that much, but it is challenging the norm, man. Holy hell, do we need more games to do this right now.
I played that at the absolute bottom of the PC spectrum with my barely kicking 660, but to be fair, I didn't have any issues. This team selected a classic PC FPS design choice with a visual twist of their own. Comic book style classic Doom, anyone? We'll come back to that, but this ensures it wasn't going to be that demanding. Despite my previous comparison, this game is a direct homage of the genre that BioShock and System Shock created, with the help of their actual development designer. When you run into your first screw, you'll have some familiar feelings of a certain large, father-like enemy, if you know what I mean. Big Daddy! Ho, ho, ho. This game adds a procedural roguelike element to the genre's typical progression, meaning every ship you dock is different from the next. And when you expire, there's a plethora of convicted intergalactic citizens to unwillingly take your place for the needs of the ship. These characters don't just have regular RPG traits like +5 strength or bonus healing from items. More traits like grabbing items on the ground automatically due to their sticky fingers, or every time you grab an item you yell Yahoo! And alert enemies. Your crafting tree and materials are where the non-roguelike progression come in. On these ships, you collect all sorts of materials to build new weapons, equipment, accessories, or even materials to build those if you can't make it very far through the nebula without expiring. As what happens with any game that is procedurally endless, this gameplay does get repetitive. But the game quickly finds new and horrible situations for you to dig your way out of, and the game brilliantly starts to shine again. Usually at the cost of your character's happiness.
The art style of this game is damn near perfection. Comic book games need to take a page from these guys because they just stole their style and made it their own. And then they just straight up steal the comic book panels for their own cutscenes, which just adds so much to their storytelling abilities. The environments are kind of where this game falls short, as the ships are incredibly cool, but also copy and paste. You learn them pretty quick and can easily blast through a bunch of useless nonsense hastily. The enemies look cool enough with their beautifully simple color palette and warped sense of humanity, but I found myself getting a little tired near the end of the same interiors over and over, even if there was a relative vast amount of them.
Cell shading, comic aesthetics, 2D animated sprites, just yes, please, to like all of it. It all begins with the most dry Cockney opening even John Cleese would be proud of, introducing your new home sweet home, the Void Ark. Purples, oranges, and teals are this game's foundation, but every ship you dock has their own color scheme to give you an indication of what to expect if you skip the mission briefing. Red means medical, purple means aristocracy, green means pet freighters because why not? Proper pet care is likely an intergalactic concern.
Space PETA.
The simple 5 to 6 color cell shading seamlessly blends the 2D sprites with the 3D environments, and makes certain traditional effects like blackouts or power outages have a renewed sense of distress and urgency. The weapon and equipment design have classic dystopian sci-fi salvage vibes like Cowboy Bebop or Fifth Element, but obviously with a much more satirical, almost Ratchet and Clank approach. The animations and voice acting for the enemies are just abrasive enough that you have little to no guilt for killing thousands of civilians turned by the nebula. Even their death sequences somehow seem playful despite being wildly gruesome.
What can I say about the exorbitant array of colorful characters that lay before me? All 2 of them. Yes, you play as many prisoners, but not surprisingly, they aren't voiced, or else this would be the most ambitious and elaborate game in the history of the world. They do have stats and even some personality, but I wouldn't get too attached if I were you. No, the only 2 characters to consider are your backpack thing named Pal, and this onboard computer thingy called Bax. Pal is just kind of there, gives you useful info every once in a while, and genuinely doesn't care if you die. Bax, on the other hand, is also just there, but sarcastically. This GLaDOS wannabe almost seems to revel in your demise, but I can't quite prove it. Combined, they do manage to keep you both engaged and enjoying your time with them, even if one of them might be HAL 3000's great-great-nephew. Twice reprogrammed.
Traditional characters aren't exactly found in this game. Yet any characters that are here have mountains of personality. The only 2 that realistically have any intelligent interaction with you would be the aforementioned Pal and Bax. The first stuck to your back for the sake of utility, and the other remains on the Ark to allegedly maintain operations, one would think. These 2's defining traits are their absolute detachment and willingness to leave behind any of these victims, yet still remaining perfectly polite with them. I guess that's a very British trait though. The convicts you take the roles of have extremely interesting personality profiles, almost every single one of them. Not only do their offenses speak volumes, but they're usually byproducts of their skills and traits, or vice versa. One thing that is consistently emphasized throughout this game's characters though is that so many people can become victims of circumstance, and some judicial systems have the ability to simply take advantage of that. Not to mention many people just become tools of those systems instead of working to fix them.
At its core, Void Bastards is an incredibly simple game. Survive. But not in the way you're used to. Unlike the likes of Minecraft, Ark, or DayZ giving you the big bad open world and hordes of murderous something or others, Void Bastards elects a simpler, more classic approach. The Star Fox approach. Pick a ship and go full Malcolm Reynolds and start looting. Tack on some beautifully dry British humor and you have a fantastic Portal-esque sci-fi romp through space that you can instantly tell is not going to go your way, seeing as you die right off the bat and all. Puts a damper on things, really. The goal is simple. You are a freeze-dried human who has been rehydrated and needs to get out of the nebula you're trapped in with the FTL drive to repair and make it to Nathan's favorite place, the penal colony. That's honestly about it. You do some bunny hopping between equally weird ships in both aesthetics and name, and try your darndest to survive until the end. I mean, you won't, but you know, it's worth a shot. Go get him, Tiger.
Welcome to the Void Ark. A lost intergalactic penal transport whose well-being literally no one cares about. Stuck in a nebula, making all living inhabitants more than just a bit crazy, this ship consists of thousands of dehydrated convicts and 2 robots with the will, but not the means, to deliver these people to their prison. The lack of effort put forth from this intergalactic government, federation, or whatever it is evident through the Void Ark's cutscenes and its literally robotic employees. Your home is filled with all sorts of semi-operating equipment of a judicial system lacking the funding, or really more so the aspiration, for upkeep. Pal and Bax dryly make clear in every one of their statements that you are worth less than shit to them and the rest of the universe. Aside from this constant encouragement, their goal in rehydrating all these prisoners is for them to gain the needed materials to repair the FTL drive, thus delivering these convicts to their new prison. And of course, everything always has to have a dash of British sarcasm and a dollop of realistic cynicism. This delightfully dry tone was achieved by Cara Ellison, who also will be gracing the world with her writing in the upcoming Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Despite this game's bleak outlook and short narrative segments, it creates strong, poignant perspectives that are necessary, especially in modern day. Plus, who doesn't love being berated by a robot with a monocle and a mustache?
Gosh, this party's worse than scared.
Void Bastards manages to take several genres of games and blend them into a delicious cocktail of fun and murder. Lots and lots and lots of murder. So much murder. However, it doesn't overstay its welcome and will have you chuckling sensibly through most of your space frolicking time. It can get a bit repetitive, but has a large enough selection of enemies to shoot to death in the same way that they have a large selection of prisoners to murder. Like I said, don't get attached. In the end, it's all good fun. Jolly good fun indeed. However, just remember, you are always expendable. Always.
Space pirating, just like regular pirating, can be boring and monotonous. But this game does wonderfully at keeping this job interesting. Its aesthetic and constant humor are what bring you in, but the open-ended strategizing and tension are what keep you with it. The difficulty progression is simple but effective enough to keep things interesting most of the time. But with procedural generation, there's always points when you repeatedly run into the same thing, or you've simply seen all the assets and their potential combinations. But this game's mechanics are so well structured that it generally finds creative new ways to torture you physically and emotionally when you least expect it. If you like an aesthetically bold roguelike FPS and a very light narrative with heavy subject matter, you would love to hate calling the Void Ark your home. Hope you guys liked this week's review. Make sure to stay tuned for next week's episode. We'll finally be traveling back to the 1800s for some death, demons, and darkness and blood-stained ritual of the night. Also, next week we're going to be announcing who won the official, unofficial Deacons and Asshat. And make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, hit that stupid bell thingy like I hit my light. Remember people, carpal tunnel is real.
So don't forget to do your stretches and
always practice safe gaming.
God damn it!
We weren't in sync, but we were in sync.
It worked! Did we just do that on the first try?
We did. Nice. Let's do it. Yeah! First time
Teamwork.
ever.
Literally.